Welcome to the public hearing on proposed redistricting map. Before Mayor Parker calls the meeting to order, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices. For those who have requested to speak, there are 2 speaker podiums in the chamber. The podium in the back is for individuals with mobility concerns. We ask all others to step forward to the front podium. Each podium has a timer located to the speaker's right, which will indicate how much time is remaining. When you have 30 seconds left, a bell will sound. When your time has ended, the bell will sound a second time. You should complete your comments. Before you begin your comments, please state your name and city of residence. Thank you.
Is the mic on? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting, a special called meeting on redistricting. I'm going to call us to order. As we get started, I will just let you know, first of all, thank you for taking such an important interest in the redistricting process. This is what it's all about. So thank you for taking the time out of a busy Monday to be with us. Our job tonight is just simply to listen. We have allotted 3 minutes per speaker, as was already stated, but I will let you know we have lots of speakers this evening, which is a good thing. But if you do find yourself wanting to reiterate what someone else said, if you'll just note what that was and let us move on, that's helpful. Those of you in person, we're going to start with all speakers in person, and then we'll pivot to our callers, which we have several pages of callers as well. We try to do that in a fairness to those of you that need to get home to your families. And with that, I'll call the first speaker, which is Francis Look.
Hi, I'm Francis Look, and my address is 1024 Lilac Street in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm in District 9, Elizabeth Beck's district, and I was going to play my old lady card and use the one up there since I'm mobility impaired. Thank you for not recognizing that. Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm here to support version 3. This supports the Como Bridge and creates a Southside Hispanic district. I've noted that the council's high priority items are supports community of interest, contiguous territories, and creates a Southside historic district. Councilman Nettles in the work session stated it fairly succinctly that several of the maps that have been drawn are trying to create new minority-majority districts by gutting the existing MMAs, and I just can't support that. Some of the mapsters have put neighborhoods that are so dissimilar in other neighborhoods that they've really created a Frankie and Grace scenario or an odd couple one. You know, the only thing is it's not a joke. So I support version 3. Now I'll hobble back up to my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Look. Our next speaker is Nolan Brooks.
To the mayor and the city council, thank you. I am Nolan Brooks. I'm an educator with the Fort Worth ISD for over 25 years. I am 3rd generation born and raised Como. On both sides of my family, we own property in the Lake Como community. I'm a minister, a musician, and a member of the Great and Rising Star Baptist Church, which is also located in the Lake Como area. I'm a member of Legacy, Leaders Encouraging Greatness Among Como Youth. Our motto is Leaders of a New Narrative. On June 22, 2001, the men of Legacy received the proclamation by the city for our work in the Lake Como community. The day after George Floyd's death, while some communities were making noise in frustration and tearing down, the men of Legacy came together to make noise in frustration, to build up, to restore, and respect the legacy of our Lake Como ancestors. Although it may not appear that I'm very tall, I'm standing on the shoulders of a few true legacy giants of the Lake Como community. When it comes to voting, I'm reminded of ladies like Nancy Murphy, Irma Jones, Wilma Philpott, Viola Pitts, who I consider the mayor of Lake Como. When it comes to voting, I'm reminded of my own grandparents who had to make a decision. And the decision was not whether to vote, but rather A, walk down the long halls to the polls, or B, climb the stairs to the polls, because the decision to vote was going to happen. When it comes to the Lake Como community, I'm reminded of the pride in my mother's voice when she said, I'm from Como and wouldn't be prouder. If you can't hear me, I'll yell a little louder. Right now, you should feel the passion in my voice because I'm representing the legacy of the Lake Como community. The Lake Como family has faithfully endured and remained steadfast at the polls in spite of opposition, in spite of being ignored, in spite of being overlooked, in spite of being discouraged, in spite of not having our voices heard. The Lake Como community has exhibited the ability to endure with calmness, consistency, and confidence. The request is that Lake Como be moved into a minority opportunity district. The voices of the Lake Como will be heard in District 6. The votes of Lake Como will be counted in District 6. Lake Como community will matter in District 6. Michael Crane, thank you for all of your time. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for being engaging and supporting to the legacy of the Lake Como community. I hope and pray that that never changes. But the request from the Lake Como community is to be free from District 3 and fixed into District 6. Perhaps you care about lasting legacy as much as Como does. So the question is, what side of history is your legacy going to be on? I can hear my mom say it. I'm from Como, couldn't be prouder. But if you can't hear me, I'll yell a little louder. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Our next speaker is Ella Burton. I saw Ella come in. There's Miss Ella.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Ella Burton. I reside at 5812 Kilpatrick Avenue in Lake Como, Texas. I am the current president, chair, if you would, of the Lake Como Neighborhood Advisory Council. I have stood both before the task force as well as this council, and our position, my position on redistricting has already been stated, so I don't have to reiterate that. But on a different note, I did want to come down and say thank you for your service and to let you know that I'm lifting you in prayer for the arduous job that you have that's lying ahead of you. And then on a very different note, in this month that has shone light upon hues of my color. And in retrospect, we will not, and we want no one to forget what was done to us. But we also don't want you to forget what has been done for us. I come from a tribe that was taught, it's just nice to be nice and to always say thank you. So with that, I'm going to ask you, Councilman Nettles, if I can have the liberty to formally close out Black History. I know that you've done it throughout, and I'd like to quote the words of the activist Rosa Parks when she said, "Each person must live their life to model others." And I want you to know that you have one among you who have done just that, who has modeled others. And I would like at this time to also say that I'd like to give flowers to that individual. There's also an African-American singer, composer, and musician who was known as the king of gospel. His name was James Cleveland. And he penned a song that says, "Give me my flowers." And it says, "Give me my flowers while I yet live, so that I can see the beauty that they bring." He went on to say, "Speak kind words to me while I can hear them, and they give me comfort." Then he went even further to say, "Friends and loved ones may give me flowers when I'm sick, or my sick bed but I'd rather have just one tulip right now than a blanket of full roses when I'm dead." So give me my flowers while I yet live so that I can see the beauty that they bring. The flowers are not only always of fragrance, but also, is that my dean?
You have 30
Well,
seconds. You're good.
okay, well, I'm going to cut through the chase. We'd like to give flowers at this hour, and on behalf of Como, to one who's modeled, as I said, Rosa Parks. And that is for our district councilman from 3, Michael Crane. How we love you, Michael. Just this last week, I sent an email late evening, and before I could rise the next morning, a resolution in place. Thank you, our friend, our brother of another mother. He's gonna hang tight and close.
Thank you, Ella. Our next speaker is Bill Shore.
Mayor Parker, Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, and members of the council. My name is Bill Shore. I live in the Crestwood neighborhood, Fort Worth, on the city's west side at 912 North Bailey Avenue. I'm going to keep my comments short. I have submitted and hope you will consider my more extensive written comments. I'm here in person for one and only one reason tonight: to support my unqualified support for the placement of one of the city's 2 new council districts at the location requested by Hispanic leaders, residents, and mappers. When I say at the location requested, I'm saying where they requested, not somewhere else in a different part of town. That district, in order to be a meaningful Hispanic opportunity district, needs to have a Hispanic voting age population well in excess of 50%. A mere plurality is simply not enough. The 52.9% Hispanic voting age percentage in the new district proposed by MapX, recommended by the Redistricting Task Force, should be viewed as a floor and not as a ceiling. Neither a plurality nor a small technical majority provides Hispanic citizens any realistic opportunity to elect a representative of their choice to the council. 2 new white districts in North Fort Worth, as envisioned in MapX version 2, should be out of the question. The Redistricting Task Force selected MapX precisely for the reason that it created a Hispanic opportunity district where it belongs, in the heart of the Southside Hispanic Population Center. This includes neighborhoods east and west of I-35 and east and north and south of I-20. The Hispanic mappers who proposed MapX, and also MapZ, which was the second ranked among the task force members, placed the proposed new Hispanic Opportunity District where it belongs. At this time in the city's history, we have a strong need to demonstrate that inclusiveness for Hispanic citizens is more than words. The Hispanic citizens on the South Side need to be included in one district, and they should not be held captive in a district they have so clearly expressed a desire to leave. It is for the council to take action to assure that these Hispanic residents do not consider to feel disenfranchised. I'm going to close by saying that MapX version 4, which Mr. Flores wanted to propose, would be the ideal map to achieve the various purposes that this council seeks to accomplish through redistricting. If map V4.
Our next speaker is Victoria Vargas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Victoria Vargas, and I reside in District 9 in the Worth Heights neighborhood. And I'd like to thank you for these 2 maps that you have proposed, which place Worth Heights in District 9. After looking them over, the preferred version is version 3. However, version 2 would be acceptable since it also includes Worth Heights. As stated before, we're an inner city neighborhood. District 9 is where we belong. We have been able to accomplish much in our neighborhood, and we would like to continue. So I hope you see your way to approve Map X Council Version 3 as drawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. Our next speaker is Joe Guerrero, followed by Kent Bradshaw.
Mayor, members of the council, and our distinguished District 9 rep, Elizabeth, thank you. I reside at 3713 Bryan Avenue, Fort Worth. I'm the president for the Worth Heights Neighborhood Association. Also, I'm in favor in regards to what Ms. Vargas a few minutes ago stated, okay? And we want to stay in District 9. So see what happens. So many things have been promised, but it doesn't come across. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is Kent Bradshaw, followed by Rosa Gomez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kent Bradshaw. I reside in Fairmount, District 9. I was on the redistricting task force with Mr. Schur, who spoke just a second ago, and both of us have been working on it since September of 2020, and I think we're pretty clear exactly what our intent was to the City Council, what we wanted to see, and that was to make sure that we had minority opportunity districts. I'm not sure exactly why you guys are calling Map X version 2, because it doesn't look like anything like the Map X that we recommended at all. And as Mr. Schur said, I don't think it should be considered at all. What I am here to say is that there is a map, a version of Map 3, or version 3, that has a horseshoe amendment to it. And I think that map has been going around, so you guys are probably aware of it. But it creates a strong Latino opportunity district, which is, I would say, probably the most important thing that the task force wanted to see happen. And it'll give a chance to have a proper voice and representation of the Hispanics in this city on City Council going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. Rosa Gomez, followed by Felix Gomez.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Rosa Gomez, and I reside in the District 9 Worth Heights neighborhood. And I'm here because I'm in favor of the Map X version 3. That's pretty brief.
Thank you very much for being here. Our next speaker is Felix Gomez, followed by Doreen Geiger.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is my first time being up here, so hopefully I don't mess it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we all need a horned frog, right?
Right, yeah, yes, we do. I'm in favor also with Victoria Vargas, yes. But I wanted to add one thing to it. I saw the video you guys had on the net on February the 22nd of 2022, a few days ago. And I saw how you guys were debating, and I thought that was the most awesomest thing I've ever seen. So I wanted to thank you guys on that. While I was looking on how to talk here on the web, it said, thank the councilman, everybody before you leave. And I told my wife, I don't really thank people unless they've done something positive or helped someone out or something like that. But just keeping it together, I thought that was beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Doreen Geiger.
Thank you. My name is Doreen Geiger. I'm at 6413 Chancery Place, Fort Worth, and I'm in District 3. I'm here just to ask each of the council members if you will please vote for Map X version 3. We think that's the best one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Geiger. Our next speaker is Larry Crockett, followed by Sergio De Leon.
Mayor Parker, City Council, City staff, good evening. I'm Larry Crockett, a lifelong resident of Fort Worth, Texas, and a member of the Como community for my entire life. I served in a variety of community service positions within the city, and I am connected to almost all the agencies in Como. These positions of service are too many to name. This evening, I'm here on behalf of the Como Alumni and Community Incorporated and myself. I retired as administrator from the Tarrant County Community Supervision and Correction Department, as did my cohort Johnny Lewis, who sits over there. We worked together for many, many years. I come today in favor of the Como being placed in District 6 as diagrammed in modified map 8X. First, I want to express my appreciation to our current Councilman Crane for his commitment and responsiveness and what he has meant to me and my community. He has served us not only as a councilman, but as our district supervisor, where he was both active and visible in that role as well. Councilman Crane has met our needs like no other. There have been discussions with the Councilman Williams, and he and Councilman Crane are aware of our plight and welcome us in his district. We have had the discussions with Mayor Parker, who said she would take a fresh look at redistricting during her recent campaign for mayor. Mayor, the opportunity is now. I was born and I lived during the Jim Crow rule of law. I lived in Como, our 1 square mile area that is bordered by water to the east, a railroad track to the south, interstate to the north, and there was a 6.5-foot wall that looked 20 feet to a youth. And now, for the first time in quite some time, Como has a real chance to make an impact for its community. The redistricting goal is to have equitable representation in Fort Worth. This increase in population allows the Fort Worth to change to a 10-member district. We, Como, now have the opportunity to move to the newly elected Councilman Williams District. The move will give us a chance to be a part of a minority community opportunity district. Never has this been a possibility. Como leaders have taken a crash course in map reading, drawing, configuration, map percentages, voter age, population, and census accumulations. This has been a true test of how city government works. The wall has come down in the 60s, and now we have the bridge to connect it to the significant voters of Como.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Our next speaker is Sergio De Leon, followed by Asana Hermosillo.
It's always a delight to follow Larry Crockett and other members of the Como neighborhood. So, good evening. My name is Sergio De Leon, and I'm Justice of the Peace for Precinct Number 5. I reside at 4521 Diaz Avenue in Councilwoman Bex's district. And this is my first time to address this new council, so it's an honor to be here on the issue of redistricting. And just to point out, the First Lady of Precinct 5 is here with me, my wife, Frances De Leon. So glad she could join me this evening. I come here today, and I understand the situation that you fall yourself in right now with being pulled in so many different directions. As someone who served on the Fort Worth ISD Redistricting Task Force along with Councilman Flores, as someone who's currently involved in litigation with Tarrant County over the way they handled the Consul and JP redistricting, which was wrong. And I want to make sure there are any reporters in the room. What Tarrant County did was absolutely wrong, so if you're hearing of that. But one thing that was paramount in all of those deliberations and discussions was that to listen to the will of the people. And if you do so, you will do right by the community. Now, the current proposals just will not work. As the other gentleman stated, the plurality is just simply not enough. And while it looks good on paper, it's nowhere where it needs to be. And so members of the Hispanic community support map V3 with the horseshoe amendment that has been described. And that basically connects a lot of the South Side and other areas to give the Latino community a true voice. And while some of these, they call it the horseshoe, but I also like to think of it as an arch that connects a lot of these neighborhoods to give us one collective voice. And you can think of this arch as a gateway to a new beginning in the city council, a gateway to actual diversity on this city council. And when you have diversity, you have equality and fairness. And then will we have a council that is truly of and for and by the people of city of Fort Worth. And so I would urge all of you today to support map version V3, but with the horseshoe and arch extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Our next speaker is Asana Hermosillo, and I'm going to go out of order because I see a sweet mama back there holding a baby, and you get to go next, okay? Erica Ramos gets to come after Asana. So come on down, Asana, and then we'll let Erica go.
Far be it for me to keep a baby up
I know,
past
right?
bedtime, Lord. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Osana Hermosillo, and I live at 9201 Shoveler Trail in East Fort Worth, District 5. I was honored to serve as one of the mayor's appointments to the Redistricting Task Force, a role in which I devoted much time and effort into understanding the historical voting trends in Fort Worth. I interviewed other members of our Hispanic community and was honestly stunned to realize that some people have been working on trying to achieve fair representation for my fellow Hispanics since 1976. That's the year I was born, and I know that that was even predates some of you sitting up here on the dais today. So that's pretty appalling, honestly. As a lifelong resident of Fort Worth who grew up in the South Side, it would be inaccurate to stand before you and claim that my childhood neighborhood has ever been well represented, because the reality is that other less similar neighborhoods have simply drowned out these voices for decades. But you have this rare chance to rectify this by creating a second opportunity district in the South that does include like neighborhoods together. Neighborhoods like South Hemphill Heights, Worth Heights, Rosemont, and several others in proximity to these. And I want to acknowledge some of the comments that have already been made and just remind all of us, the elected officials that I'm speaking to and everyone in the audience and everyone listening, that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what number we sit in, but are we grouped in like-minded communities of interest that can understand our community's needs and understand that while we live in one city, there are vast differences. And I just, again, feel compelled to remind us, it doesn't matter what number that is at the end of the day. I want to also say that I worked for the city of Fort Worth for 15 years, specifically in economic development, and it is with that lens that I do become concerned about some of the things that y'all just talked about at your retreat. I did catch some of it as you went through your SWOT exercise. The reality is to continue to attract strong businesses, to continue to support very important businesses that have existed for decades here, and to better support the growing entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Fort Worth. It is imperative that we have another Hispanic Opportunity District at the dais to better represent our citizens. I want to clarify that a true Hispanic Opportunity District really needs to consist of a voting age percentage, voting age population percentage greater than 55%. That is just the reality, and I hope that everyone can understand that. My closing comment is that you have an incredibly
Asana. I'm
unique
sorry to cut you off.
opportunity to do well. Let that be part of your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
It may be your finest hour. Thank you.
Actually, we're going to go to Erica. Come on down, Erica. And then Aniel Lubanos is our next speaker. Erica, she's 2 marches down. She's got her sweet baby, so I pulled her up first. Yeah, Erica Adams is her name. Yeah, hi there.
Otherwise, my kid will keep interrupting.
Erica Ramos, excuse me. Yes, of course. Go ahead, Erica.
All right, good evening. My name is Erica Ramos, and I currently reside in District 7 and own a small business in District 9. I actually grew up in the Worth Heights neighborhood, as did my mother, countless aunts, uncles, and cousins. Worth Heights is where my grandmother, along with her sisters and brothers, established roots and built a community around church and education. Simply put, it has been our home for over 3 generations. While I don't live in the neighborhood currently, I will gladly advocate for its representation on this council. I love numbers, so let's break it down in some key figures that I've heard over the past few days. Fort Worth stands at a population made up of 35% Hispanics. That warrants more than 1 Latino sitting on city council today. While I recognize Councilman Moon's attempt to create a Latino Opportunity District in District 9, I'm afraid it falls short of what is actually needed to achieve this feat. Moon stated D9 provided an opportunity district because the Hispanic VAP stood at 48%. However, Bickerstaff was clear in noting that a decrease in up to 10%, 10, should be considered when you account for the number of Latino residents who have yet to become citizens. For this reason, I am asking that council consider map version 3, either that or map version 3 with the horseshoe amendment as you've heard today, as it not only creates a Latino Opportunity District, but a second strong Latino Opportunity District. Map version 3 will create a district with either 50, I believe it was 52% or a 63% Hispanic VAP, which gets us a little bit closer to D2, which we know has consistently elected a Latino representative. While we can't predict the future, what I can say is this will create the opportunity for a second Latino to serve this city. It will keep historic Latino communities together like Rosemont and Worth Heights, who will need a united voice as they navigate changes coming to their neighborhoods. I ask that council strongly consider these maps, as this will create an opportunity for Latino generations over the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Our next speaker is Aniel Lubanos, followed by Dr. Kanini Brooks.
Good evening. My name is Anael Luevanos, and I live in the Rosemont neighborhood in Southside Fort Worth. I am here not in opposition to anyone or to express dissatisfaction with my capable City Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck, but I'm here to demand a place at the table at City Hall for the Latino community in Southside. Latino civil rights organizations, including the United Hispanic Council and the Mexican American Educational Advisory Committee, successfully sued the Fort Worth ISD in order to demand the creation of a second Hispanic opportunity in the district in Southside Fort Worth. Just like the city of Fort Worth, back in the days, in the Fort Worth ISD, there was only one Hispanic opportunity district, and that was in Northside Fort Worth. But there were other large populations of Latinos that desired their own voices to be heard. The math was inescapable. The Voting Rights Act was clear. As a result, the Fort Worth ISD settled with Latino civil rights groups in order to create District 8, a new Hispanic opportunity district in Southside Fort Worth in the mid-1990s. It is my honor to serve as the representative of that district in Southside District 8 on the Fort Worth School Board. I proudly represent Rosemont, Greenbrier, Harbor Heights, Worth Heights on the school board. I know these neighborhoods, and believe me, they know me. They have long wanted to be in a district that will give the Hispanic community the deciding vote on their own representation. I urge the council and Mayor Parker to vote for a compromise map that does not leave behind Southside in the new Latino Opportunity District. I urge you, don't forget Southside. No dejes el Southside. Thank you for listening and for your work for our community.
Thank you, Aniel. Our next speaker is Dr. Kanini Brooks, followed by Taylor Trevino.
Good evening. I'm Kanini Brooks. Greetings this afternoon. I've been thinking about the word opportunity. It's already been mentioned a few times this evening. Opportunity is the perfect word for this moment in time. It's when conditions are favorable and individuals are in a good position to advance and to be successful. I'm a Tarrant County transplant for over 28 years. I was called to the Como community to be a musician and choir director for a youth choir at one of the stalwart churches in the Como community, Zion Missionary Baptist Church, where I would meet my husband. Since then, I have served at the Greater Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church in various capacities. My marriage has been nurtured by another great church in the Como community, Como First Missionary Baptist Church, which has also shaped the hearts of my own children through their youth camp as both participants and later youth counselors. I am an active member of the Lake Como Neighborhood Advisory Council and am intimately familiar with the efforts to ensure Como's legacy for community and civil engagement, including candidate forums, voter registration, and transportation to the polls, is preserved. I believe this moment is an opportunity to show the Metroplex the blueprint for opportunity for everyone. I am sure you are aware of your impact on the greater Metroplex. I work in Dallas, I've worked in Plano, I've lived in Grand Prairie, all over the Metroplex. Decisions made in Fort Worth are watched with a careful eye and many times followed. Your demonstration this far to make a conscious effort to educate, engage, and listen to your constituents, as well as understand and consider the needs of your fellow council members' constituents for the greater community to move Fort Worth forward is commendable and noble. Now, you have the information, you have heard the voices, you recognize the lasting opportunity to elevate voices to a level that coincides with the makeup of the city. Now, it's your opportunity to take action. The conditions are favorable. You as individuals are in good position to advance the city of Fort Worth and be successful. With this moment, your legacy will have an impact for at least 10 years and has the potential to set Fort Worth on the right course beyond the next decade. The ask is to move Lake Como to be a part of a minority opportunity district. The District 6 is the perfect fit. The question is, what will you do with the opportunity? Thank you.
Dr. Brooks. Our next speaker is Taylor Trevino, followed by Thomas Trilinkasi.
Good evening. This is also my first time doing this. I'm going to try not to be too nervous. My name is Taylor Trevino. I'm actually a resident of North Richland Hills, but I am a local organizer here in Fort Worth with an organization called JOLT. JOLT is a nonprofit civic engagement organization working to empower, educate, and mobilize young Latinos to fight for the representation that we deserve. I'm here today to voice my support of MAP version 3 with the Horseshoe Amendment. This MAP amendment creates a strong Latino opportunity district and provides our Hispanic community with a chance to have the proper voice and representation on City Council. One thing that we have been doing as an organization has been a lot of block walking in Hispanic communities here in Fort Worth. Previously, we have been in the north side where I used to teach for a couple of years, go JP Elder. Recently, we've also been in the south side near Hemphill and Rosemont, I believe. Still sort of learning the layout of the land here, but we've really been able to see firsthand how Latino residents of Fort Worth feel. I had a conversation with a man yesterday who told me in no uncertain terms how disrespected he felt by the government in general, not just Fort Worth, but it's really disheartening. And it just, really makes clear the need to create this opportunity district and to create another pathway towards creating that respect and dignity that the Latinos of Fort Worth deserve. I think that's about it. Thank you guys, City Council, for creating this opportunity for us to voice our opinions and for working so hard to create fair maps for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Next speaker is Thomas Trilinkasi, followed by Wallace Bridges.
Mayor Parker, council members, fellow citizens and neighbors, I'm very happy to see that 56 others of my neighbors are here today to speak on redistricting. Last Tuesday at 10 a.m., it was probably a lot tougher for you to come and comment on the rule changes and the procedural changes with regard to redistricting. I brought a pizza today to illustrate basically a metaphor on what we're dealing with. When I grew up, there were 8 members of my family. When it was time to order a pizza, it was pretty hard for my mother to decide what would go on the pizza, what portions of the pizza would have sausage and which wouldn't,
I always wanted the slice with the most Italian sausage. The reality is that you had the pizza. It was done. All the communities that are represented here made their points multiple times. Your task force came up with a pretty good map. The independent folks wanted an independent redistricting task force, which you rejected, so we compromised and agreed to have a task force that you delegated to as a group. You set the rules, you set the procedures. We all wanted to play the game fairly. Instead, a lot of these people, some of which who advocated for redistricting 5 and 6 times over 50 or 60 years, some of these folks have been here trying to have their voices heard. My point is that the reason why we're still here, we're still having to voice our opinions, is because there were 2 functionally new maps presented. And while I'm here to speak in favor of the version 3 with a horseshoe, probably with some extra pepperoni on it, the reality is that the other map, which nobody on this council should be voting for, is clearly the most white-centric map that's been submitted out of the dozens, if not hundreds of maps. The irony here is that the council person who proposed that is on his way out the door. And he's not here for me to look him in the eye and say what it is that it is. Not only do I favor the version 3 map and the horseshoe amendment to it, giving opportunity both for the Hispanic district to have real representation and a chance in the numbers. But I agree with a couple of the speakers who specifically said that what's happened at the county level, the state house level, the congressional level is wrong. And that nonsense should not have been brought into the nonpartisan process of a city that's the 12th largest city in the country. I wholeheartedly support embracing the pizza that's already been brought to the door, and that you vote for the map that includes all of us.
Thank you, Thomas. Our next speaker is Wallace Bridges, followed by David Mendez.
Good evening. Unfortunately, I did not bring any pizza, but I brought myself. My name is Wallace Bridges. I live at 915 East Cannon Street, historic Southside. I've lived there the last 28 years. I'm coming here as the president of Historic Southside Neighborhood Association, but as a longtime resident. I'm supporting version 3. Let me say this. I wanted to share some history of why that's important, because sometimes that we look at the data points, we don't connect to the real history of what's going on. When I moved to in that neighborhood, the first thing I learned from an organizing perspective, that you've got to get like-minded people along the way to really, if there was a concern that came up. And the first thing, I sat at the feet of people like Hazel Harvey Peace, Frank Staten, Monty Gillum. I could just go on. These names are synonymous throughout this city. But they said, we need to get a representation from people throughout. And my first thought as a new person to the neighborhood, how can somebody on Baker Street be concerned about what happens on Hattie Street? But I learned very early that they recognize what happens on Baker Street also affects what happens in historic Southside. So if there's a store who's selling alcohol and cigarettes to young people, that affects me even if I'm on Baker Street. And they realize that. And we organize around those kind of initiatives where we picked up vans and picked up elderly people who struggled their way to get on a van, even though they lived a mile and a half away from it. But they knew it was important. Ms. Peace would say, did you talk to those folks down on the other end near Berry Street? And I said, yes, Ms. Peace, because they knew that's what community is all about. And so it is important to understand the connection of the history. Some of us forgot that when you drove along Allen Street, when you see gangbangers and all that crowded all the way across, that happened, that changed because communities from Baker Street all the way to historic Southside organized around that effort because it affected all of us. I've learned the importance and the value of that. And I try to teach that as I walk along or ride through the streets to let my children know how important it is, and like-minded communities need to stay together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Our next speaker is David Mendez, followed by Genevieve Williams.
David Mendez, Fort Worth, Texas. Mayor, Council, during this time of redistricting, you have an incredible task to make districts fair and balanced. You must take input from all neighborhoods in Fort Worth. After watching the working session and many hours of other meetings, it is clear north of 820 is not being considered closely enough. The growth in Fort Worth is north of the loop. The area has experienced growth in the last 10 years and continues to grow rapidly. The Northwest area alone had the largest growth at 79%, far more than any other area. Not taking growth and future density into account is a great disservice and will result in unbalanced representation of these areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Our next speaker is Genevieve Williams, followed by Jesse Aguilera.
I'm Genevieve Williams. I've lived in Fort Worth my whole life. I grew up here. I went to school here. I'm very disappointed. I think we could do better. I think that Fort Worth could be the example. So what we've created, what you've given us is inappropriate and it's insufficient for what Fort Worth has requested, what your civilians, your citizens have requested. It negates the working class people. More importantly, it negates our people of color, our communities who really should matter in 2022. Jesus, get it together, seriously. My family has been here since segregation, and I have the Arlington Heights sweaters to prove it. We should be better. You should be a better group of leaders. We should create an equitable map that districts based on what the people have requested and takes into account those communities who are underserved, like the community I work with, which is largely Hispanic and has no good representation. And it looks a lot different than other parts of Fort Worth. It makes me think, gee, I wonder why these people don't have the same infrastructure that other parts of Fort Worth do. It can't simply be that their rep forgot about them? No, we should do better. We were promised changes. And whether you were here before or elected during that process where we were promised changes, we expect them, and we expect to hold you accountable in creating something better than what we have, rather than maintaining this sad, sorry status quo. That is not what you were put in power for. You were put in power to change. And if you cannot be the change, step down and get out of the way. We will find someone to create the Fort Worth that represents all of us, fully, wholeheartedly, with love and respect.
Our next speaker is Jesse Aguilera, followed by Chris Holbert.
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor. My name is Jesse Aguilera. I live in the Oakhurst neighborhood, and before that, I was raised in the north side of Fort Worth. I'm very proud of that. During that time being raised in the north side, I faced a lot of discrimination in school. I got called all kinds of ugly names in school. This has been a very, like the lady said, there's some things that happen here in Fort Worth that we should not be proud of. We have an opportunity to end the discrimination against Latinos with this. This is a good start. For that reason, I would support version 3 with the horseshoe. But to be honest with you, I found that even inadequate. I did find the X map, the original version from the committee, to be adequate, a good starting point. I am here as the commander of the American Jive Forum, a long-recognized civil rights veterans organization. In the 90s and the 2000s, I came over here and worked on redistricting. In fact, in the 90s, we had recommended a 10-1 map to try to be able to get some sort of representation out of the Hispanics in the South Side. This battle's been going on for years. The thing that I do ask is that you be responsible enough to put a map together that does not end up in court. I do not want to see our taxpayer dollars support a map that supports inequities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilera. Next speaker is Chris Holbert, followed by Pete Munoz.
Mayor Parker, Council, thank you for letting me come up and speak today. My name is Chris Holbert. I live in Ridgely Hills in District 3 with Councilman Michael Crane. I was one of the founding members of the Ridgely Area Neighborhood Alliance, a group of neighborhoods in the Ridgely area, biggest three being Ridgely Hills, Ridgely North, and Ridgemar. The people of Ridgemar have asked me to come speak to you all because I believe they were supposed to be taken to District 7 and they prefer to stay in District 3. When we as an alliance came together, three neighborhoods that had worked together before, had a lot of similarities, had worked on promoting businesses in the Ridgely area and the Ridgemar area, working on crime in the area, and just overall having the same voice. Many of our residents also share the same school district or the same school pyramid and would like to be able to keep that together. In this time, we've really come to work well together. Ridgemar has been our bridge to work with Ridgemar Mall, which is in a state of disrepair, and so we've been able to work with them trying to get new and better things there. They've also been a big part of us working with the air base, which again it concerns all of us as we're woken up early in the morning for airplanes taking off. The members of Ridgemar have preferred to stay in the District 3. They have a long history with the council in this area, specifically Michael Crane, and we believe it would be best if they stayed in this area so that we could, again, continue to work on issues that concern our part of Fort Worth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is Pete Munoz, followed by Fernando Peralta.
Need my glasses. Thank you, Mayor Parker, City Council members. My name is Pete Munoz, and I'm a resident of Fort Worth, City Council District 2 in Northside. I'm also the elected constable for Precinct 5 here in Fort Worth. I represent Northside, Diamond Hill, and the district that goes through downtown. And I also represent the wonderful neighborhoods in Southside Fort Worth, including the historic Latino neighborhoods in Southside, Rosemont, Greenbrier, Hubbard Heights, South Hemphill Heights, and Worth Heights. After reviewing the maps that are now offered, I cannot say that any of them are sufficient to open the doors of City Hall to my community. I have come to know the residents of Southside pretty well over these last years. They desire the opportunity at representation on the Fort Worth City Council. At least one of the current maps could be amended quite easily in what has been called the horseshoe shape to add the historic Hispanic neighborhoods of Southside Fort Worth to neighborhoods in the east side of Fort Worth in order to create a legitimate Hispanic opportunity district. I urge the council and Mayor Parker to do the right thing and create a legitimate second Hispanic opportunity district. And please do not leave Southside out. Thank you all for your service.
Our next speaker is Fernando Peralta, followed by Sandy Martinez Russell.
Good evening, Council. My name is Fernando Peralta. I'm a resident in Rosemont and also a constituent in District 9. I'm not here only as the president of Las Amigas Rosemont Neighborhood Association, which is historically one of the most disenfranchised and largest Hispanic neighborhood association on the south side, but also as the chair of the Hemphill Corridor Development Collaborative, also the chair of the Tarrant County Tejano Democrats, a board member of Steer Fort Worth, and also an active member of the Texas Army National Guard. And I'm here today to make it very clear what members from my community have already said, and those who aren't present and who are calling in, who have put in comments, is that our community wants version 3 with the horseshoe amendment. This gives our community the true Latino opportunity district that we need for real representation and a voice on this council. This is an opportunity that I know members in my community have been fighting for decades, and the opportunity is here. After spending this week, nights, days, texting, calling, posting on social media this opportunity, there is excitement. But yes, there is also fear of change. And there will always be fear of change. But this opportunity is now. And I urge the city council to please listen to the voices of our community and please vote on this amendment to get this horseshoe amendment approved, to get that opportunity to our community. Our community deserves a voice, and this is it. It's been too long. And this affects not just today, not just tomorrow, but the future generations of all Latinos growing up in this city, which I love. And that's why I'm here fighting for this opportunity. This horseshoe amendment gives that opportunity, that hope, and that voice. So I just want to finish off by saying, thank you to all the members in our community that have shown up, that are speaking, calling in, have sent emails. I also want to give thanks to my city councilwoman, Elizabeth Beck, for reaching out this week and wanting to hear a perspective from our Hispanic community. And I hope we can get her support on this. Also, I want to give thank you especially to Carlos Flores, who's the only Hispanic on this council and is carrying all our weight. So thank you for doing that. And also for the rest of the council members who have also reached out, please listen to our community. We deserve this. We deserve representation, and we deserve a voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Our next speaker is Sandy Martinez Russell, followed by Johnny Lewis.
Oh my goodness, I feel shorter over here. Okay. Hello, my name is Sandy Martinez Russell. I am a Fort Worth native who grew up in the south side of Fort Worth. I currently live in District 6. I'm here today again, this is my second time being here, to share the important voice of my community that is dear and near to me, which is the south side. Fort Worth has grown and will continue to grow for many years to come. And I thank you for this time this evening as I voice the opinions not only of myself, but of my people. Our current council, as you can see, consists of 4 white, 3 African American, and 1 Hispanic. Our minority population is over 50%, with Hispanics, according to the 2020 census, being comprised of 35% of the city's population, yet that diversity is not represented. When I look around, that's not what I see. So, as the Fort Worth continues to grow, the addition of 2 new council districts this year provides a rare and timely opportunity to create a second Hispanic Opportunity District, which better reflects the diversity of the residents of Fort Worth. There is no perfect map. However, there is a map with adaptations that can be the best for the majority of the people. The 2 maps that seem to be in dispute are Mr. Nettles and Mr. Moon's. Moon's map creates 2 new districts on the Alliance area, which does nothing for our Hispanic community. So I asked you not to consider that map. Mr. Nettles' map, which is the version 3 map, puts the Latino Opportunity District on the east side, but disregards the opportunity in the south side. But I do thank you for considering our Hispanic community. Therefore, I'm asking that you consider the V3 map with the horseshoe amendment. So, in my opinion, we are close, but we are not there yet. We respectfully ask that you, City Council, be mindful in recommending a map to the city that provides an equitable minority representation for all races across the city, which will allow for fair representation of our city population. And for our Hispanic communities to be able to have a chance of having a seat there with you, right there in front of me at the table, where we currently, where you currently sit. This is a critical time that we are living in, and Fort Worth, to have the power, City Council, to make the change for our future. The Hispanic population has been underrepresented for so long. It starts from the top, and I'm asking you to consider looking forward to seeing more than one person that represents and looks like me. I am a product of Fort Worth. I am a product of Fort Worth ISD and a prior employee. I am a success story of the South Side. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Our next speaker is Johnny Lewis, followed by Rennie Rosas.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Nettles, City Council people, persons. My name is Johnny Lewis. I live at 953 East Terrell Avenue, Fort Worth South Side, historic South Side. I'm gonna just cut to the quick. Yeah, I support version 3 also, but there was a lot of things here. First of all, y'all cleaning up a mess that was started years and years and years ago when they were using freeways, and they were destroying neighborhoods, when they were using the railroads as ways of saying, okay, black folks over here, white folks over here, and if we got some left, the Hispanics will be over here. So y'all clean up a mess, and I can see it. So that's why I wanted to give you this in writing, because I didn't want to waste my time giving you something that you could read. So it is unfortunate also that the vast majority of the people who should have been drawing this doggone thing didn't even get a chance to sit down. Stop 6. Como did a great job, and I want to applaud Como because I learned so much over the years from sitting at the feet of those women who were leading Como years ago. Yeah, I retired with like Larry Crockett, 32 years with Tarrant County, 24 years in the Air Force and Army Reserves. So I learned, that's how I learned how to read maps. When I was looking at these maps, something just didn't seem right. So, but we still go with version 3. And like I said, a lot of people who should have been involved in this, people in Stop 6 were not involved, as many as should have been involved, people in Southside who should have been involved, who weren't involved. But I can tell you now, that one of the things that happened, the people were not involved. And I think all of you can attest to this. And we can use the virus as an excuse. There were no meetings. There were people, like Como had the opportunity to have people teaching them how to use that map. We asked for it, but we didn't get it on the South Side. So we'll go with version 3. I think it's a good map. I think it's an okay map, I'll put it that way. Putin might not like it, but I think that's what we should do. And also, I heard my brother from the GI Forum. Yeah, years ago, when the GI Forum came down and they were proposing that 10-1 map, let me tell you, they got laughed at and they got put aside. So I want to say thank you to everybody, and also the people who did come out tonight and those who are online. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next speaker is Rennie Rosas, followed by Cheryl Sherman Gonzalez.
Buenas noches. I'm Rennie Rosas from District 9, Councilwoman Beck, excuse me. And I live in Worth Heights. In 1976, Fort Worth and Texas started their first redistricting program. The law that made that happen was passed in 1965. It took Texas and Fort Worth over 10 years to implement that federal law. David Vasquez, Pablo Calderon, and myself were the first ones there in redistricting. Pablo presented a map to you guys, and y'all discarded it. He has probably more experience and expertise in redistricting than anybody in this building. He is top-notch in that game, and I think you should pay attention to the man. He submitted what was Plan X, and now is a compromised version of the, I think it's called with the
Horseshoe.
Horseshoe is what it's called. but I would suggest that you pay attention to Pablo. He has a great deal of experience and knowledge when it comes to districting. And the best thing about Pablo, he's not biased. He's going to do the fair and just thing that needs to be done for the community. He's not looking at a personal agenda. He's not looking to promote one person or the other. But I believe in Pablo Calderon, all right? Fernando, we lost Dusty Hill last year, you know? The last time I talked to you, who was it, David Bowie? You remember that? Anyway, that's on a personal note. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Sherman Gonzalez, followed by Byrick Ellison.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Carol Sherman Gonzalez. I live at 3609 Dryden Road. I'm in Michael Crane's District 3. And I'm so happy to have the opportunity tonight instead of last Thursday to share my observations. Thank you for making sure we're not in the ice tonight. I'm here as an ordinary citizen. However, I did participate in the process that's driving this. I was privileged to enumerate for the U.S. Census, and I was blown away by the willingness of my fellow Fort Worthians to participate in doing our constitutional duty. There was a whole bunch of chatter, y'all will remember at the time, devaluing the census, criticizing the process. I thought for sure it was going to be an uphill climb to get folks to answer their doors, but it wasn't. Rich and poor and everyone in between. I was invited into homes. We couldn't go into homes because it was COVID, but we'd stand out on the front porches and apartment stoops and lawns, and we'd sweat it out because it was August. But by the end of the day, we got the count done. We got through it. And now y'all have the duty, a heavy responsibility to do right by the results of that count, which confirm that an overwhelming majority of the growth in our state and in our city is from communities of color. And so to that end, I ask that you endorse the V3 map with a horseshoe, creates District 11 in the South Side, and which appears to supply the greatest opportunities for minorities to elect the representatives of their choice. Thank y'all so much for your service.
Thank you, Carol. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name the first time. Byrick Ellison, followed by Thomas Oliver.
Thank you, Council. My name is Byrick Ellison. I am with Citizens for Independent Redistricting, and I'm a resident of Overton Park West in District 3. While Ms. Bruner hands out my charts, let me describe the first one. I wanted to correct some impressions that had been expressed here in the past. The first chart puts before you the split-up registered communities of interest of the various plans that you're considering. And this is information I got from the city website. It's based on the staff analysis. It may not be the up-to-the-minute data, but it's the most current data that's available to the public. You've said here, some of among you have said that Plan X splits up neighborhoods very, very badly. And as you can see, compared to versions 2 and 3, that's just not the case. The city hasn't published any data on version 4 or the version 3 with horseshoes, so I can't speak to that. Let me make another point. As we go from 8 to 10 districts, a lot of us are going to find ourselves in newly numbered districts. Fully 180,000 of us will be in 2 brand new districts that don't exist today, and probably somewhere between 50 and 100,000 will be in a shifted district owing to shifting boundaries. So fully a quarter of the population is going to be in a newly numbered district. And so trying to focus on staying in the same district seems a little bit surreal. What the task force recognized was that this is a once-in-a-life opportunity as we go from 8 to 10 districts to reconfigure, realign, and redefine our districts according to commonality and proximity. And one of the big ideas that came out of the task force process was the crafting of a Hispanic Opportunity District in the South. Now, let me point to page 2, because this is from Fernando Costa's enumeration of the changes specifically to version 2 from Plan X. And on lines 20 and 21, you see that they take Hispanic neighborhoods like Worth Heights, South Hemp Hill Heights, Rosemont, Greenbrier, JSML, out of the Hispanic District 11 and into District 9, which is an upscale, predominantly white, predominantly professional, upper income area. So in black and white, what you see there is the dismantling of the Hispanic district. And version 3 does the same to some extent. As you can see in page 4, the maps, you see this big blotch in the middle with 75% minorities that are put back into District 9. That was the heart of the Southern Hispanic District, which you see on page 5. I hope that you will give that your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Our next speaker is Thomas Oliver, followed by James Walker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to have the privilege of reading a letter from Ms. Opal Lee. She cannot be here this evening because she was invited to the White House to a Black History Month celebration. So I was tasked with reading this letter. 1201 Evans Avenue is my address. Why is it that when people finally settle in a groove that works, change is proposed? I've seen it so often that when citizens unite in a way that's working for everybody involved, the powers that be come along with the idea of unnecessary change. Why can't the powers leave things alone? Since it's clear that things won't be left alone, I would like to offer the suggestion that redistricting map 3 with the Horseshoe Amendment be considered best for our neighborhoods. Given the likelihood that our voices will no longer be heard under any other alternative, give us the benefit of the doubt that we'll get things right. We have great plans for the district you are planning to change. These plans will impact not only our neighborhood, but our city for generations to come. For instance, our farm on the edge of the district is a work in progress, and our commitment is to continue to provide internships to make sure that the time spent by those who were previously incarcerated, it wasn't wasted. And the opening of the National Juneteenth Museum on the northeast corner of Rosedale and Evans does not need any nay votes. Again, leave our district intact. We are asking, we are pleading. Don't let me have to get on my arthritic knees asking you to leave our district alone. And I, Thomas, I also vote for the version 3 of the map. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. We understand that Ms. Lee better deal this for the president. That's understandable. It's understandable. James Walker, followed by Russell Fuller. Mr. Walker.
All right, how you doing, Mayor and Council? Again, my name is James Walker. I live in the historic South Side, which is District 8, held by Councilman Nettles. I also work there in District 8 also. Live there, do a lot of development there in District 8. So me and my team in working with the historic Southside Neighborhood Association, I sit on the Economic Development Board. We have a lot of things in place and been doing a lot of things. And our goal really is to try to help keep our historic Southside in District 8. We have had a lot of help from Councilman Nettles. He's been great. He's been on call when we need him. He's been there for us, and to lose him at this point would be a disservice to us, to your help. Thank you, sir. But yes, we are here as a neighborhood, and I'm here representing the neighborhood, and to say we would like to go with version map number 3, because again, we think it will reap for a strong minority community. So hope council can reconsider, and words of Mr. DeLeon, please listen to the will of the people, because the people are the one that got you in the places where you are today. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Rusty Fuller, followed by Gabriela Rodriguez.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm Rusty Fuller, President of the North Fort Worth Alliance. The Alliance has been active with the multi-neighborhood group in advocating for the importance of neighborhoods and the consideration of council district lines. Since the original Map X divided some 16.9 of the communities of interest, and Map version 3 divides 20.8, I gather that keeping neighborhoods whole was not as easily done as we, the Alliance, had hoped, given the other concerns of the map drawers. The point I wish to address is leaving room for population increases in the increasingly diverse areas of the North, consistent with the information you saw at your recent retreat. There will be an increase of greater than 100% by 2045. While you move boundaries to give proportional representation to concentrations of ethnicities inside the loop, you are looking to the growth of those same you are overlooking the growth of those same ethnicities in the north of the loop. You might want to go back and take a look at the presentation 2020 census summary from the November 17th, 2021 meeting of the Redistricting Task Force to review the growing diversity up north. Just a minor point of order from the workshop on the 22nd. We were not given 2 districts in the far north. By population, we warrant 3 districts. Map 3 designated 2.5 districts in the north, and those were designated so future residents will again be disadvantaged for 10 more years. For this analysis, I'm using districts 3, 6, 7, and what I'm calling Texas Motor Speedway because it varies between the maps, as high-growth districts. The 2 smallest low-growth districts total 175,000 people. The two smallest high-growth districts, 186,000 people. That's a 6.2% point difference on the average. Version 3 has allotted 102, 101, 103, and 103% to those high-growth areas. They have allotted 97, 100, 99, 99, and 94 to the average inside the loop. We don't want anybody to think that we have been poorly represented in the far north. We have not. We have been underrepresented when compared to the number of voters in other districts. We believe there is a better map that can be drawn that doesn't disadvantage the far north again. A map that reflects better balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Our next speaker is Gabriela Rodriguez, followed by Roxanne Martinez.
Thank you to my name is Gabriela Rodriguez. I reside in District 6. Thank you for the task force and for the council for this process. We had the opportunity to create a more equitable Fort Worth, and we ask that you listen to our voices. I support version 3 of the map because I want the following. I want to see the following. I want to ensure that Como is in District 6, to ensure that the historic South Side, Morningside, and Hillside is in District 8, to ensure that Stop 6 and Lake Arlington are in District 5, to ensure that North Crowley feeder pattern remains in District 6, to ensure that District 2 remains a strong opportunity district for the Latino community, and to ensure that disenfranchised voters still have voting power and a voice. However, there is an amendment that I would like to see with version 3. I would like to see that the council amend the map to add a strong second Latino opportunity district with at least 60% voting age population by considering the Horseshoe Amendment. There have been inequities for far too long, and we believe that this process can help us move forward as a city. This process is larger than one community or one district, but it must be one that gives representation to communities of color who all live, work, and contribute to the vibrancy and well-being of Fort Worth. Now, according to my notes, I was supposed to end on a soft note, telling you to think about me and what I want. But I feel it in my spirit to tell y'all, to think about all the people who came up in here today to tell y'all how the lack of representation has been an issue for decades. And I'll leave you with this. Just as you do, we want the chance to a fair representation. We want to ensure that we can elect a council person with our needs in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Our next speaker is Roxanne Martinez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Roxanne Martinez, resident of District 2. As a Fort Worth ISD trustee, we've just gone through the redistricting process, so I know it's not an easy process and requires listening to many different communities of interest. So I thank you for your service and your consideration tonight. Tonight, I join many others here advocating for the Hispanic community of Fort Worth. As a demographic that makes up 35% of the city, Hispanic residents deserve equitable representation on the council. And this is your opportunity to make that happen. The more people of color are equitably represented, the more likely it is that our council can better represent the city it serves, and the more likely that all residents will be invested in and involved in our city. You have the opportunity right now to ensure that all voices are heard and represented across the city of Fort Worth, including those traditionally marginalized, like many of the Hispanic communities of Fort Worth, Southside. The task force wanted input to ensure equitable representation, so please don't pass up the chance to hear from the Hispanic community this evening. Don't leave Southside out. I'm here to ask you to vote for the version 3 map with the Horseshoe Amendment, giving the community a true chance to add an additional Hispanic Latino opportunity district and to be better represented by the council. Thank you again for your service.
Thank you, Roxanne. Okay, now we're going to shift to callers. Our first caller is Connie Medina.
Ms. Medina,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Connie Medina. I reside at 3716 South Jones, and I just want to state that I'm very concerned about me being moved out of our District 9. I'm very adamant about staying in this district. We have had very good connection with our council people. Started with Wendy Davis, Joe Burns, and our current council person. We have a close union with him, and we would like to remain in this district.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Next caller is Lovell Harper.
Mr. Harper? Mr. Harper? Ms. Harper?
Did we lose Ms. Harper? While Ron's working on that, is anyone here that is here in person to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Okay, if you don't mind, in a moment, come around and tell the city secretary, because it may be that you clicked a call instead of in person. I'll fix that. Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead, Ron. Perfect.
Good evening.
Speaker, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Lavelle Harper. Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lavelle Harper, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live in the Glencrest Rolling Hills neighborhood, and I'm in District 8.
Are you still there?
Yes.
Are you finished?
No.
Please continue.
After reviewing maps version 2 and 3, I would like to voice my support for version 3. Hello, we can hear you. Good evening. My name is Lavelle Harper, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live in
Ms. Harper, I'm so sorry we're having trouble hearing you. We may move to Sarah Martinez. If someone doesn't mind calling Ms. Harper and making sure we have note of her concerns, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes, ma'am.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Esther Martinez. I am a lifelong 38-year resident of Southside Fort Worth. I grew up going to Hubbard Heights, Rosemont, and eventually I went to high school at South Hills. I do want to make my voice heard today in support of map B3 with the Horseshoe Amendment. This map amendment creates a strong Latino opportunity district and provides our Hispanic community with the chance to have the proper voice and representation on city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next speaker is Brenda Maroney.
Ms. Maroney? Oh, Ms. Harper?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Lavelle Harper, and I live in the Glencrest Rolling Hills neighborhood in District 8. After reviewing maps versions 2 and 3, I would like to voice my support for map version 3. I think this map configuration would allow people to elect representation that would best serve our interest and our needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Ron, did you have Brenda Maroney on the line? And then after Brenda, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to bring up, I think, Hector, is that correct? Hector Maldonado will have you speak after this next caller. Thank you.
Ms. Maroney? Ms. Maroney?
Hello.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi. Good evening. Hi. My name is. After Brenda, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to bring up. I think Hector. Is that correct?
Ms. Maroney, you may want to turn down the television. We're getting some feedback.
Okay. I got it. Okay. Hello.
Please go ahead.
Hi. My name is Brenda Maroney. Good evening. And I'm calling. Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is Brenda Maroney, and I live in District 8. And I am wanting to support the redistricting map version 3, the Horseshoe. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please continue.
Okay. Hi. Okay. My name is Brenda Maroney, and I'm in District 8, and I'm wanting to support the redistricting map, the Horseshoe version, and so I just want to. That would be what I would recommend in support.
Thank you, Ms. Maroney. We appreciate you calling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hector Maldonado, come on down. Sorry, we'll fix that for you.
Council members, Mayor, thank you very much for organizing this space. My name is Hector Andres Maldonado. I live in the Bluebonnet Hills neighborhood in District 9. And I am the Fort Worth Regional Organizer for JOLT, a civic engagement nonprofit that works closely with Latinos. I have spent countless hours this past year meeting with working class Latinos through block walks and voter registration events, community colleges, food banks, and any space where we can meet people where they are at. I have done this all across Fort Worth, and so while I understand that each community faces its own hardships determined by locality, I can say that I feel that the Latino community is united by our values and our stories. And I can say that many feel disenfranchised and underrepresented. This is a belief echoed equally across the generations of the community. So I believe version 3 with the Horseshoe Amendment and the Hispanic Latino Opportunity District would give Latinos, especially younger Latinos, the hope they need to someday secure a place at the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hector. Our next speaker is Susan Kinney. Susan Kinney.
Ms. Kinney,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Parker and City Council. I'm Susan Kenny, a resident of District 4. I'm the president of the Parkland Neighborhood Association. We thank the city's task force and the City Council for their efforts to keep neighborhoods together and to work with all the different concerns. We ask that the City Council, as it continues to work with all entities, that it provide equal representation for the population north of the 820 loop. There are over 272,000 people living north of the 820 loop, which is 30% of the total City of Fort Worth population. Based upon the 272,000 population numbers, there could be 3 districts completely north of Loop 820. In addition, it is estimated that the population north of Loop 820 will continue to grow at or more than the amount in the past 10 years. We ask that the city create 3 new districts north of Loop 820 so that the unique needs of the north concerning growth and other issues has equal representation on City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kinney. Our next speaker is Cyrus Alexander. Okay, we'll move to Beatrice Thomas. We're going to need to give Ron a raise after this. This is not easy for him over here. We appreciate you, Ron. I know, let me fix it here.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, all right. Good evening. I would like to express my concern regarding District 8 and the map. I think the high priority during the training that I went to stated redistricting would not be any fragmentation of minority communities and that there should be fair representation. Conflict of interest should be looked at also before considering breaking off the minority neighborhoods, which are already, the minorities are the smallest in the county. I thank you for allowing me to speak. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Fernando Flores.
Mr. Flores? Mr. Flores,
Hello,
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Fort Worth City Council. My name is Fernando Flores, and I reside at 2740 Hempfield here in Fort Worth in City Council District 9. I already sent you all an email with our position on this topic, redistricting, earlier this evening, clearly stating what we would like to see. So you can read that. I was going to paraphrase that, but I've decided, after somebody called me, that you need to talk about yourself. I said, well, I didn't want to do that. But I'll tell you, I'm an old guy, 80, almost 81. I've been around as a community leader for nearly 35 years. Founded a neighborhood association, and I'm still an officer in that today. And also the first alliance of neighborhoods in the city. So Also, the Hempfield Corridor Task Force, I'm the founder of that, and I've served on city boards and Citizens on Patrol, for which I received an award recently for for 30 years of service. I am familiar with Southside. I know the neighborhoods in Southside, and I want to make sure that you clearly understand that we want to keep those neighborhoods together, not split up. Now, that's what we would like the new Opportunity District, which will, I think, be 11. But we're open to whatever is going on with, I think Councilman Nettles is involved in that, trying to draw up a compromise map. And it looks pretty good from what I've heard, so we are interested in that. And we would appreciate all you can do for us, and call me if you have any questions. I know the South Side, we want to keep the South Side neighborhoods together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Our next speaker is Pablo Calderon.
Mr. Calderon? Mr. Calderon?
Yes.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Pablo Calderon from District 8. 2 goals: maintain a strong Hispanic percentage in District 2 and create a viable Southside Hispanic Opportunity District. I'm gratified to have heard so many of my fellow Latinos speaking up for a compromise of version 3 with that arch or horseshoe. However, I've also heard from many Hispanics who've said to me that it sure would have been nice if we could have had a fuller public airing of the map recommended by the Redistricting Task Force, along with versions 2 and 3 and 4 before we got to this point, because many of them might have supported vocally, to the extent they're doing so tonight, supported X or version 4. There's various versions floating around of this horseshoe arch. I've listened to interests of council and citizens, to secondhand recommendations and suggestions heard through the grapevine. These thoughts and these ideas have been put into a compromise map prepared for Councilman Flores. This compromise map retains most of version 3, including the key areas of districts 5, 6, and 8. Its District 2 Hispanics are 2 points higher than in version 2 or version 3. Versions 2 and 3 keeps Fort Worth's second largest concentrations of Hispanics in District 9 separated from other Hispanics. Legal counsel has stated that a white candidate would likely win District 9 in those plans. Why? Their Hispanic citizen voting age population is about 37%. This compromise map, the arch, increases the Hispanic percentage in the second opportunity district by 10% from version 3 and even from version 4. It raises it up to 63%, and that merits consideration. I asked this mayor and council to provide an opportunity for the self-determination of Hispanics in a new district without an incumbent. I have come to learn that Ms. Beck cares for and acts responsibly on behalf of her constituents in Worth Heights and Rosemont, and for that, I thank her. I trust this council will support a compromise map and welcome improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peggy Hendon.
Ms. Hendon? Ms. Hendon? Ms. Hendon,
Yes,
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
thank you. Good evening. My name is Peggy Hendon. I am president of the Tarrant County League of Women Voters. I am speaking this evening on behalf of our organization. The League was very encouraged last year when the council appointed an independent redistricting commission to look at the redistricting maps for Fort Worth. It was the first time that a nonpartisan body had been brought together to attempt to draw maps that represented all of the citizens of Tarrant County. We have worked closely with that task force to ensure that the maps were nonpartisan and there was compliance with all the applicable federal laws. We have been disappointed that the council has chosen not to address the map that was presented by that task force. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of hours that went into the compilation of that map. Those hours were spent by the task force, by neighborhood associations, by communities of interest, by private citizens who spoke at several of the meetings held by the task force to gather information from the citizens. At this time, the League does not feel that we can support either of the two maps that have been presented to the citizens of Fort Worth. We hope that in the process, you will look again at the nonpartisanship of these maps. We hope that you will reconsider the reneging of parts of the resolution that was passed in October of 2021, which took away some of the guarantees that had been made to the citizens. We are so encouraged by all of the people that have come out this evening to voice their opinions to the council. We appreciate you listening to them. We support the comments earlier by Mr. Schur and Mr. Bradshaw, and we hope that going forward, the council will once again consider the needs and the voices of all of the citizens of Fort Worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hendon. Our next speaker is Stephanie Swanson.
Ms. Swanson,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much. I am Stephanie Swanson. My city of residence is Spicewood, Texas. I am testifying as a member of and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Texas in opposition to both MapX version 2 and MapX version 3. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today and thank you for allowing us to share the League of Women Voters of Texas position on this matter. I'm going to start my comments on the constitutionality of the maps. The League has genuine concerns about the legality of the current map proposals. Our concerns arise at least in part because of base assumptions being applied that fail to fully consider applicable law, which may result in dilution of the voting power of Fort Worth's growing Black, Latino, and Asian populations. It appears that the demographic information for each plan that is provided on the city's webpage only shows voting age population and not citizen voting age population, and that thus does not provide transparency on this issue. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has held that CVAP is the proper measure to use when assessing minority voting strength and the requirements of the Voting Rights Act. And in my written testimony that I will be submitting separately, I have the case cited in there. It's Reyes versus City of Farmers Branch. However, based on just the VAP, the voting age population that is listed on the city's website, both maps would likely fall short of creating a new Hispanic Opportunity District. Additionally, since the city has not provided a detailed district plan that allows the public to view the street names along the district boundaries, and since both proposals go below the precinct level in almost every district, it is virtually impossible for the public to recreate the maps on their own to assess the demographic profiles of the proposed districts. Given that communities of color now account for 65% of the city's population, we would like to encourage City Council to perform the appropriate analysis to determine if the maps proposed
Ms. Swanson, are you still with us? I think we lost Ms. Swanson. Is Bruce Miller available?
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, Bruce Miller here for Citizens for Independent Redistricting. Today, it's difficult to focus on redistricting in Fort Worth while the world and our neighbors are in such turmoil. Nonetheless, I want to bring some facts to your attention. In 2018, the Race and Culture Task Force recommended that the city look into establishing an independent redistricting commission and creating a charter resolution to accomplish it once and for all. I don't have to remind you that the then mayor and council rejected even carrying out a study to determine how this might work here. It happened again with this mayor and council, where Mr. Costa asked you to consider a hybrid approach, just to try it out. You don't need me to describe the disarray of your present process, since you're all participating in it. In Austin, with a similar population, their 14-member independent commission completed, finalized, and certified a 10-district map for the next decade on October 27th of last year. This, in spite of a raging pandemic and greatly delayed census reporting. Starting in July, the Austin Commission carried out 20 public forums across the city. They spent 23 hours in meetings. There were 173 attendees and 82 speakers. 70 maps were submitted to the commission for consideration. There are other cities with similar success records. The strength of an IRC is that the commission members all work openly and in concert to address all of the redistricting issues facing the city at one time. In contrast, in our process, we consider maps created by individuals, including council members, and you fight over them. You even deny your single Hispanic member a horse in the race. Mr. Arnold, the Bickerstaff attorney, pointed out that 3 of the maps submitted to the task force held out the possibility to achieve demographic balance among our white, black, and Latino communities. Those maps were created by Mr. Flores and Mr. Calderon. Instead of fighting amongst each other, once again, I implore you to consult with these experts. They can cooperate to address whatever issues still remain and create a satisfactory district map for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Next speaker is Jackie Cox.
Ms. Cox?
To consult with these experts. They can cooperate to
Ms. Cox,
address
you may want to turn down the
I've got
meeting.
it turned. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, you have had problems with the process, Council. I'm glad to speak with you again. This is Jackie Cox. I live in Jared Wilson's district. But tonight I have heard many voices rising in unison to say, you're almost there. You're almost there. Please just bring equitable representation for Hispanics home. You can do it. You can reach it. There's a map. It's version B3 with what Secretary de Leon described as the arch or the horseshoe amendment. You can put together a district of the historic South Side neighborhoods, kind of moving around with Poly and the Southeast Fort Worth area, and a new District 11 and give us what we so much need, which is equitable representation for Hispanics, blacks, whites, everyone. Everyone can have fair representation. It matters terribly, and it's within your power and your authority to do it. I'm begging you, please do the right thing. It can't be that hard. Give us equitable representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Our next speaker is David Larry Patterson.
Mr. Patterson,
Yes,
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
thank you. Good evening. I'm Larry Patterson, president of the Ridgemar Neighborhood Association, or as we call it, RNA. Ridgemar is currently in District 3. We are most emphatically opposed to any redistricting that would move Ridgemar into District 7. Therefore, for the following reasons, we support Map X version 3. Chris Holbert saved me some time. He already mentioned that the RNA is a charter member of the Ridgely Area Neighborhood Alliance, or RANA, and explained what that alliance is, so I won't belabor that much more, except to say that moving Ridgemar to District 7 would remove us from the RANA, isolating Ridgemar from the west side neighborhoods we have been aligned with for many years. Ridgemar is geographically separated from similar neighborhoods in District 7. There's no alliance in District 7 that would be a fit for Ridgemar to join. Therefore, if Ridgemar is moved from District 3 into District 7, instead of being aligned with a group of West Side neighborhoods that share similar interests and concerns, we would be left isolated to go it alone. Although Chris also mentioned that Ridgemar Neighborhood Association has a close working relationship with our neighbor to the west, NAS Fort Worth JRB, I want to reemphasize that the RNA serves as the liaison between all of the West Side neighborhoods in the RANA and the JRB senior leadership. This would not be possible if Ridgemar is moved to District 7. So the bottom line is, approve Map X version 3 and leave Ridgemar in District 3. Thanks for your attention to this matter, and you all have a good evening.
Our next speaker is David Martinez.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Martinez,
Yes, this is me.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Dave Martinez, and I wanted to speak on the redistricting. I'm not an expert on the redistricting and all the rules and how you're able to do this. I do know that one of the things I do know is that it's based on the population, the census that they had, and I don't agree with Nettle's map or the other district, Mr. Moon. I'm for consolidating the South Side neighborhood with the Hispanics. I'm not big on where we elect people for or have the district based on color, but as far as the culture and how the people that are not being represented in the city of Fort Worth, I think it would be a disservice that we don't have more Hispanics in leadership or representative of the community that's here in Fort Worth. I've spoken on the zoning in Southside. I've talked to the council before, and these things are all changing so fast. I've lived here all my life. I'm 48 years old, and the way things are changing are going in a bad direction as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind living in a small town. I don't mind Fort Worth staying the way it is. I know a lot of people would rather change everything up, but I don't see how this is going to make it better. It's going to just make it like Dallas. and nobody wants to live in Dallas. So one of the things I wanted to touch on was that I noticed Nettles has been speaking a lot about for Hispanics, but I don't see him as a representative of us speaking toward Hispanics in the neighborhood being changed. I know that there was a third option that they're compromising on, that it was going to turn, adopt, put poly into the district and the poly area. And am I cut off?
No, you're good.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, well, the thing is that that's all fine. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this, but I do think that we need to take more time and maybe get more input from the people of Southside, and go further with that. You know, as long as we get our time to speak, not just at the city council meeting, but in.
Thank you. I'm very sorry. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Our next speaker is Alex Stein. Not answering. Okay. What about Ariella Villa?
Ms. Villa?
Yes.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Ariela Ari Villa. I'm a born and raised District 2 Northsider, currently residing in District 9, Southside, Hemphill Heights. We have a major problem with equitable representation in this city as a majority working class city of color. The fact that City Council is drawing up these districts is obviously a disgusting conflict of interest and abuse of power. We not only need more than one Hispanic Opportunity District and Minority Opportunity District, but we also need an independent redistricting committee. According to the most recent census, we should have 3 to 4 Latinx council members, but I guess we'll have to be grateful for 2. I'm extremely disappointed in Councilperson Jared Williams and Councilperson Chris Nettles, who both actually campaigned on the promise of supporting an independent redistricting committee, which was obviously a lie since they have since voted otherwise. Your lies got you the endorsement of United Fort Worth, who during the election season built relationships with thousands of voters, spreading those lies you both told, and getting you those winning votes. That same people power will get you voted out. We will hold you accountable. Everyone listening can go to United Fort Worth's Instagram or Defend Hemphill's Instagram and see for themselves the lies they told. Oh yeah, you also promised that you would support the people of Hemphill Heights in fighting the ongoing gentrification, and then voted in favor of apartment developers instead of the people that you represent. This is why equitable representation matters. Y'all need to give us the Latinx and minority opportunity representation we deserve. Aquí estamos, no nos vamos. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Pamela Young.
Ms. Young? Ms. Young?
Yes.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for this time to speak on this issue. I want to advocate for what everyone who has called in tonight has advocated for, and that's MAP X version 3 from Councilman Nettles with the horseshoe amendment, because that seems to be the compromise that's going to benefit the most people and the most marginalized people in our city, who are actually the majority of the people who live in our city. We should be working together for them and for all of us. I just want to make a statement in addition to that, to advocate for the charter amendment to form an independent redistricting committee. If we would have had that this time around,
I don't think that we would be in the position that we're in right now, where people's voices, people who live in this city, are not being heard. And rules are changing at the last minute from this council. So I'm advocating for that. I know there's an election in May, and I don't know if it's too late to add another amendment to that ballot for an independent redistricting committee for whatever mechanism needs to happen for that to go forward. I understand that was the reason why it didn't happen previously, was because of the city charter needing to be amended. Please amend that city charter. I'm asking for the council people who have committed to fighting for an IRC to stand up and pull out all the stops until that happens. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Trevino.
Ms. Trevino,
Yes,
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you by phone this evening. My name is Jennifer Trevino, and I'm a 20-year resident of the North Beverly Hills neighborhood in District 2. And yes, there are hills. My married name implies Latino heritage, which is accurate on my mother's side, but doesn't account for my Black heritage by way of Jamaica and the British West Indies on my father's side of the family. I share that with you because growing up in Texas, I didn't see a lot of families that look like mine. So representation matters to me very much. I don't feel like my Hispanic roots are fully represented by having a single Latino on our city council, when the city's Latino population is just over 35%. But in addition to that, as we look to the future, and we have a Fort Worth ISD population that is 65% Hispanic, that even further begs the question of representation at our government level. So when Fort Worth citizens voted to add 2 new city council districts, the goal was to increase that representation in our growing city. And I personally won't be satisfied until we make significant efforts towards that. Many Fort Worth leaders have lamented over the years on how hard it is to engage the Hispanic community in Fort Worth. And I'm encouraged by the turnout this evening. And this is a chance to change that as we support version 3 of the map with the horseshoe. We all know the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations, talent retention, creativity, and innovation, which ultimately leads to better decision-making, all of which our city needs more of as we continue to move forward. Thank you so much for your time this evening and your service. I appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Daniel Garcia Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Rodriguez, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Buenas, my name is Daniel Garcia Rodriguez, and I come to you all as a son of immigrants from Mexico. Proud of my cultural roots, identity, empowered, central on radical love for people. First off, Carrie Moon, if you're listening, Mr. Al was the mayor of Fort Worth. Your map is trash, and you are that bad. We are here because you have all failed to create a fair, independent, transparent, and accessible redistricting process where politicians don't draw maps in their self-interest. We need true independent redistricting in the city of Fort Worth so that community voices like the ones from Como, Diamond Hill, Poly, Stop 6, Southside and Central, Riverside, and other historically excluded and marginalized but beautiful neighbors are included in every step of the process. Chris, Jared, and Elizabeth, you 3 failed on your promise to truly advocate for independent redistricting. You'll have to end the bad habit of not fighting for things because you don't have the votes or because you don't want to upset other members on council. Fight for community needs and demands because our people and struggles are worth fighting for. This redistricting process has become a political partisan game, and you 3 are partly responsible for that. We need fair representation for Black and brown people and a redistricting process that gives them the power and access to do that. But we cannot stop there. Maps mean absolutely nothing when elections are unfair. We need local campaign finance reform where the wealthy and corporations lose the power to buy local elections and make it impossible for grassroots candidates of color to win. We must address the conflicts of interest that exist when parties like the Police Officers Association and Linebarger spend thousands of dollars on candidates and also get to negotiate on contracts and policy at the city of Fort Worth that benefit them. Lastly, we need to move our elections out of May and vote in November. We should vote for our mayor and council the same months we vote for our president and our governor if we want to improve local election turnout. Now, to my beautiful Black and brown people who are listening, we have to build power together. We have to stop playing into these systems that continue to perpetuate harm and attempt to separate us. Our liberation is bound to one another. Our power is not in reacting to these systems when they fail. True transformation will come when we build in solidarity among our experiences, identities, and ancestral resiliency. Politicians won't save us, so let's lean on one another to take our power back while addressing issues through creative and holistic solutions. We are not minorities, and nothing about us without us. Nada sobre nosotros sin nosotros. Thank you.
Our last speaker this evening is Alex Stein.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hey guys, my name's Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I am a talk show host and content creator based in Dallas. And I just want to say, I actually call into a lot of council meetings and, I like to do a lot of pranks and jokes, but I actually wanted to do something kind of serious. I wanted to applaud Fort Worth because you guys have been really supportive of the film industry in Fort Worth, especially with I was an actor on the movie 12 Mighty Orphans. And in that movie, the city of Fort Worth was really helpful. They were just really collaborative. And I actually live in Dallas, but like I said, I work in Fort Worth. And Dallas does not have the same respect for the film industry and for creative types like myself. So like I said, I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I'm a viral sensation. I had the vaccination rat. You guys have all seen it. It's got millions and millions of hits. But that's not why I'm here today. What I'm saying is that wouldn't have been possible without the hard work and dedication of the film industry in Fort Worth that opened doors, that gave me the possibility to do that and go viral. So I want to say, in all seriousness, I do appreciate Fort Worth helping out the council, helping out content creators, even if it is a big project like Yellowstone's prequel, 1773. It doesn't matter. That gives a lot of people jobs. People get to be an extra. Then they get to put that on their resume when they go to college that they've worked on a big movie. And that opens doors. So you don't realize when you actually put a production like that, how many doors that opens for college students in North Texas. And if you look at the Metroplex, there aren't a lot of people that do this. Like you look at Glenn Beck, he bought the old Paramount Studios in Las Colinas, and he put the Blaze TV. So I just want to applaud him for, using Irving as another place in the Metroplex where, content creator can actually get a job or, gain experience for later on in life. So I really want to applaud the city council. And you guys really need to work even harder at opening those doors because those are unique experiences that not all cities have the infrastructure to handle, and Fort Worth does because it has a setting like Texas where the weather's okay, and you have scenery that people need in movies. So, like I said, I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein. I'm on the grind all the time. I talk to all these meetings, but I just don't want to troll Fort Worth because you guys are good people and you guys are actually doing something that Dallas is not doing. Dallas is, we've had some, productions here, but they have not shown the same support, and like you guys have with the Fort Worth Film Commission, creating a museum for the 12 Mighty Orphans movie. You guys are going above and beyond. You guys really need to applaud yourselves, pat yourselves on the back. More cities need to take a page out of Fort Worth's book and do that because that's how we'll help the community out is through content creation.
We
Creating something
appreciate
that
you.
we all
Any
can
other
afford.
comments on redistricting by chance?
Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you,
Thank guys.
Alex. Great. And with that, that was the last of our speakers. Thank you all for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Meeting adjourned.